Welcome to A Canadian Investing in the U.S., a podcast and YouTube channel focused on Canadians buying real estate with host Glenn Sutherland.
Welcome to a new episode of A Canadian Investing in the U.S. This week, my guest is Aureline Bonin. For people who don't know Ari is the co-host of Advanced Real Estate Investing Talk with myself and Darcy White, where we talk about a topic and we all have a different perspective. So Ari's coming from the industrial flex mobile home park and multi-res sort of space. Darcy's into the larger multifamily, and for a long time I was into the single family, and I'm getting into the multifamily as well. So we all had a different perspective on it. So if you like listening to me, the episodes with me, and you like hearing Ari, I suggest you come and check out our other podcast, Advanced Real Estate Investing Talk. It's on all the same platforms, but it isn't a YouTube. All the same podcast things. Anyway, without further ado, Ari, thanks for coming on the show. Do you want to give everyone kind of a little bit of an intro to yourself, who you are, maybe some story, and then we'll get into our topic today?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Glenn. So, I'm originally from France. I trained as a teacher, language teacher, and then I also studied philosophy. So I'm a student of philosophy turned real estate investor and entrepreneur. I moved to Canada about 15 years ago, and I liked I discovered the entrepreneurial mindset, and I really like it. This idea of learning from your mistakes instead of the red marker in school, growing, helping each other, and viewing the world as a world of opportunities and abundance. And so I really enjoyed that about the Canadian culture. And when I was living in Toronto, that's where I first moved. I first started working for a foundation, and all the funds came from real estate. The founder was a real estate mogul, and they did commercial plazas and malls, and that got me interested. And I wanted to, at my humble level, replicate the same model where you become wealthy, you become a big fish, so that you can help others and make a difference in the world. And that was kind of my path, and a humble beginning. So when I was living in Toronto, I looked at the numbers, and the cash flow did not make sense to invest in Toronto. So I looked out east and created a portfolio out there, and then started investing in the US, discovered mobile home park. And my niche is around affordable housing, and today I help other investors grow their portfolio by helping them find deals and evaluating those deals, and then the funds generated for me will go towards affordable housing, buying assets, and with the idea of keeping the rents low, typically 40% of median income, and the idea is not I make money not from the cash flow of the assets, but I preserve the existing inventory of affordable housing that exists in Canada or in the US, and the cash flow is from helping others acquire property.
Okay, well, that's interesting, and it actually raises a few questions for me. So, if you're maybe I'll start with the first one. So if you're like training people how to do this, how does this look? So it sounded like you were helping them with the underwriting and everything else. How does that look? Like, do you meet up with them in person? Is it a Zoom call? How do you make it make sense, right? That you're part. Are you part of the deal? I'm just trying to guess at some things or are you just trying to help? Like, just maybe go over how
there are two cases. There is a case where the person is already a seasoned investor. So basically they have a buy box, and I just go out there and find deals that meet their criteria, and then it's going to be a simple fee. But then for people that want to establish a portfolio, then the idea is to so they need to educate themselves. I'm not going to do that, but I can show them deals where the numbers make sense, and I have a simple way of underwriting deals. For example, for mobile home parks, typically you take the gross income, and depending on how many homes are owned by the park, that will dictate the expense ratio. And then you have a cap rate you use. Is it depending on the town? Is it in town, on the countryside? And then you use that cap rate to come up with an offer. And yeah, so that's how I help with an easy underwriting to make sense of the numbers, to see if a deal is worth pursuing. And then you do your due diligence, and then you do your proper underwriting, and then yeah, and you consult with you need to do your own due diligence and your own do underwriting.
So if you're trying to create affordable housing, but you also are trying to help people, does that because I'm just thinking from like the students I teach, a lot of them are looking to create a lot of income so they can leave their job. Does the angle of trying to afford or create affordable housing hinder their ability to generate wealth to leave their job, or whatever their objective is?
Yeah, so these are two different things. So my business is helping people.
One's you, one's them. Yeah.
Yeah. One is me, and it's just that's I basically, the model I was shown was they made money and they had their own foundation.
Yep.
And my model is my I'm gonna, like most entrepreneurs, you solve a problem, a societal problem. The solution is creating more inventory. The more inventory you have, the more you can have affordable housing. I'm not doing that. It's another set of skills. What I do is I preserve the existing inventory that's already affordable. So, and I don't make cash flow out of that, and that's not what I help people purchase. I help people purchase other forms of assets that cash flow. And the thing is, I have exposed myself to a lot of asset classes, so I'm familiar with mobile home parks, multifamily, single family. I know a bit about industrial, retail, and the challenges and what to look for in those asset classes as well.
So you just brought up mobile home parks, and just because I talk to you all the time, I know you were selling or assigning a project that you had, which was a mobile home park. So for people who don't know like anything about mobile home parks, or just know some super basics, what makes a good mobile home park? Like, what if you were looking for one of these? What kind of things do you see that you're like, hey, that's really good? And what things do you see is like, that's a game stopper, that we can't buy that park?
So, to the history of the mobile home park, most of them were created after the war in the 70s, 60s, 70s, and typically there is less of them being built, but there are still some being built. Sam Zell is very famous for having a REIT. I think the first REIT that was entirely focused on mobile home parks. I've studied the market here in Southwestern Ontario. Lots of REITs are buying those mobile home parks, those mom and pop mobile home parks. What makes a good so yeah, the history of it. So there was a lot of attention and a lot of people, because people understand residential. So a lot of people wanted to go into residential real estate investing, so buying multifamily. And that became a bit overcrowded. And then people started looking at other asset classes, and they started looking at mobile home parks as an asset class. So you have different cases. There is so typically you have the land, and in some cases, all the homes are going to be owned by the tenants. So that's kind of the simplest case, the ideal case, where you're not responsible for the improvements or the reparation, the repairs on the homes. You're just responsible for the sewer line, the water lines, the electrical pedestals. So that's the kind of the ideal case. But there is so each, as an entrepreneur, you're here to fix problems. If you
Right.
own all the homes, it can be also, it commands a way higher rents, and it's similar to an apartment building. A little bit better because you have your own little yard and
Yep.
your own parking spot. So there are advantages to a mobile home park compared to an apartment building. And for the longest time, the cap rates, which is a cap rate being a way of measuring and comparing assets with each other, the cap rates tended to be very high in mobile home parks. And so because of the competition, so the cap rates have started to compress. But there is still a lot of mom and pop owned mobile home parks.
Okay. So I read a book on mobile home parks a bunch of years ago, and what the way they were looking at it is they only wanted to own pads, right? Land, pads, utilities, and just sell like lot rent is what they were looking for. Do you the parks that you own, do you have the homes, do you actually own the homes, or do you own the pads, or do you do a mix? Like what strategy do you like? Hello, everybody. Thanks for listening to the podcast. I just wanted to let you know that I've created a new coaching program. I believe the new coaching program has way more value than any of the programs that have even existed in the past. What we've done is pre-recorded all the lessons so that you can work through it at your own pace, which is pretty cool. And then we're going to meet up on a regular basis to answer the questions, do deal analysis, and actually spend our time together working on things instead of spending our time learning things. I think this will make a seamless transition to buying in the United States and will help you solve a lot of your problems. If this is of interest to you, go to glensutherland.com/coaching. I hope to help you guys invest in the United States, and I hope we provide as much value as possible. Back to the podcast.
Yeah, I like the strategy where you don't own the homes, so that's less headaches, less cost, and makes for way simpler assets to manage. So that's an asset class that we really like.
So if you found a park and say it had a bunch of units, maybe it's 50-50, right? Where the way that it was owned. The ones that were owned by the park, the mobile homes that were owned by the park, if you had inherited a bunch of those, would you work on trying to, like, I don't know, lease option them or sell them to the tenants or rent to own them or do something to move them to the tenants, or would that just be you just stay away from those kind of parks?
Yeah, that's something so what you really need to be mindful of when purchasing them is when you do your underwriting, explain to the seller, I'm going to underwrite the income just for the pads, and I'm going to assign a value to the home based on the shape they're in, rather than calculating the income based on, rather than doing your numbers based on the income generated from the houses. That's very important because if your end goal is to sell those homes, which you can do,
Yeah.
be careful though, because in certain states and you need a dealer license to be able to do that. So you may have to
Really? Even in your like own park, eh?
yeah. So you need a dealer license. So you need to make sure that you do that properly. And but yeah, that can be done. And like you said, there are ways to sell to the tenants that make it viable for the tenant and the seller.
So you're looking, I'm just gonna keep going down this path of like sort of evaluating these parks and what you're kind of looking for. But there's ones that are in the city and you'll have city water and city sewer. And then there's ones in the country that might be on septics or beds or other things like that. That will you buy either kind, or does that matter?
Yeah, typically we buy with city public water and public sewer.
Mhm.
Uh, uh, it can be tricky because but that's like any scenario, you can be very good at one asset class, and you can specialize in mobile home parks that have well and septic. And as long as you maintain and you factor into your underwriting the cost of maintaining a septic, replacing it when it needs to be replaced, you can be successful in that area as well. But typically, what can happen if you buy on the countryside and the city is expanding, the city may require you to move from and get you to pay for the transformation from septic to a public. So that can be costly. So So that's one thing also to be cognizant of when you invest in mobile home parks that are on the outskirts of cities.
Okay. And like when you're looking at these parks, like, well, maybe just in general, all parks, they kind of have a stigma. Like everyone, at least, before I was actually like did some research on this or read any books on this, you kind of have this vision of like, trailer park boys, right? You have like that um, how much does the stigma play into everything, like with people wanting to live there, with people wanting to invest in them? Like does that, I'm sure that's a factor.
Yeah, I think it's a stigma, but it's become really an asset class like any
Mhm.
other asset class now, and investors who know the asset class typically are very bullish on it. And it's the thing is with mobile home parks, it's quite recession resilient. So that's one of the reasons why people like them. In a downturn, typically, if you have more people looking for affordable options, and typically mobile home parks are the affordable option. And also, if you don't own the homes and the tenant doesn't pay the lot rent, then you can go after the home. So there is a big incentive there for the tenant to pay the rent.
And that's great because that's honestly one of the big issues you have with a lot of places is, having skin in the game, right? That the tenants have something, they have an incentive to pay rather than
Mhm.
have to be chased around. Um, I know that you were, like I mentioned already, that you were assigning or selling a project. If people are going to ask you, like, what were the advantages of that project? Like, because we were just talking about some of the things that make a park good, or some things that you're looking for the deal specifically that you're looking on. What would be like the good things about it?
Well, you want to pick areas. I think that's what made me have a good experience with real estate investing. You want to pick an area uh, where there is demand for the asset. So you want to make sure that there is population growth, job growth, which will trigger that population growth. So you want to be on the path of growth. That's one key element that I'll encourage people to look for. That's what I was looking for. Um and then yeah, deals that cash flow. So uh, you do your own underwriting. It's very important that people take responsibility for what they do. Um, but yeah, so typically good numbers, high cap rate, and if those properties are off market, uh, there could be a situation where you have an asymmetry of information where the seller uh, might be willing to sell for a price that would be lower than if you were in a competing offer situation. So that's one of the big advantages of going off market.
Awesome. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about like mobile home parks, or your industrial, or the other buildings, that type of stuff that you wanted to talk about that maybe I just didn't ask?
My event?
Yeah, let's talk about your event.
Yeah, so I'm organizing this event. I'm part of a group, a mastermind group, and I see a lot of value, and it has been life-changing for me. So my aspiration is to replicate that type of mastermind, and so I started an in-person group locally. And Glenn, thanks again for being our first guest. We had a great event when you came out.
Yeah,
We
thank you.
talked about investing in the US and house flipping, and again, he's awesome to be around. He's
Lots of
bubbly
energy.
and yeah, and I want to give back. So the events are free. I want to give back. I want to because I find real estate has treated me right, and has helped me become financially free, location free, and not worry free, and not because it's never completely passive. Even as an
No.
LP, the limited partner, sometimes you may have to step up to the plate. But yeah, it has given me a lot, and I'm part of a mastermind of people who uh, think alike. And sometimes being an entrepreneur can be lonely. So I created this in-person mastermind, this in-person event that focuses on real estate investing, so that others, can benefit and leverage the room and leverage other people's expertise. And oh, I need a contractor, I need some help. What should I do right now? I have this, I'm in this financial pickle. Who has a creative idea of how I could get out of it? I'm brand new to real estate investing. What is the path? So there is this event that happens in London once a month in the third week of the month, third or fourth, typically on a Tuesday night. It's in Old North. We rent an office space. And basically, one activity we do during the event. So the structure, we have two guest speakers. So we sharpen our skills with those guest speakers. We learn together, and then we have people introducing themselves. So the group is still small. So we go around and we have a time to learn about each other. And then we have a masterminding session where we have a situation presented to us, and we basically in small groups come up with ideas of last time was a student with so much money in debt, the green humanities wants to get started in real estate investing. What could they do? And so every time I try to come up with a problem, and we to put our heads together to try to solve it. And out of this group, I want to create a mastermind where we meet among entrepreneurs on Zoom. So it's going to start with local people and hopefully grow from there. And people will realize the value of the group, where you come, you bring your the issues you may be facing, and sometimes you can't think your way into the solution, but someone else in the group will think of something, say something that can be useful, or ask a question. Sometimes it's asking a question, the right question, reframing the problem. So I see a lot of value in masterminding for entrepreneurs. So that's something I wanna help grow. And also, another thing I'd like to discuss is so my passion for entrepreneurship, and there is so I want to do more wholesaling and help others grow their portfolio, and I want to turn that into a business. And I'm looking into EOS, and there is a EOS entrepreneur organizational system is a great system for people who run businesses. They systematized accountability, the way to articulate your vision, and those tools are really helpful. And I'm working on my VTO, my vision, and basically having a 10-year vision, having a clear vision about what it is you want to accomplish helps as a filter, because sometimes entrepreneurs can be tempted by the shiny object syndrome. So it's really good to have this exercise of focusing on your vision, and then establishing your vision, and then having a filter to be able to say no to, okay, this is a great opportunity, but no, it doesn't fit my vision, so I'm not gonna embark. Or no, this is not the right client for me. I have this pool of clients, and that's what I focus on, their needs, their specific needs, and that's all I do. I don't want to be everything for everybody. I just focus.
I love it. And I think everyone listening to this can definitely get the vibe that Ari is definitely giving back. He is definitely looking to help, and he's going to have nice, clear karma for doing such thing, right? What comes around goes around, right? So no, I love that, and honestly, that's honestly that's the best way to grow. And that's how I grew as well. Is you just give and give, and the opportunities show up when people want to work with you, people want to do things with you because of that. At least that's how it grew for me. Because you just do it for so long for free, and eventually there's opportunities. It's a hard way to do it. But it'll be the way you'll sleep the best at night. So
yeah, and if I can recommend a book, would be Go Giver. I think it's a great inspiration to provide value, and then to be a source of value in the world. And I think, Glenn, our podcast together with Darcy really aims at helping, where we encourage people to send us questions, and then we put our brains together trying to help come up with strategies or ideas, and ways for people to get started, what to do with that amount of money, what could you do now in this environment. So we also try to lead with value there.
yeah, and it's like it's a win-win, because like the audience gets to hear that. But even for myself, whenever we're planning for them, sometimes these aren't easy questions to answer. and they really make you think about what your goals are, if it's in alignment with you, everything. It makes, some of them are really deep questions, and they're not easy to answer. And if you like, I challenge you, if you just even listen to some of the shows and try to do some of the exercises yourself, like to try, if you were going to speak about this, what you would say. It's not easy necessarily, because it comes from deep within some of these questions we have to come up with.
Yeah.
Ari, if people wanted to track you down, they're interested in getting some assistance with learning how to do this. With all this, they're interested in some of the mobile home parks you're doing. How do they track you down? Or they wanted to hear about the conference, or your meetup, which I, like he said, well, I was the guest, and I'm hoping I'm going to attend the one in February as well. So I'll probably be there in person, unless my kids' hockey comes up again. Otherwise, I will be there. Yeah, how do they find you?
People can get in touch with me by emailing at the real estate coaching circle at gmail.com, the real estate coaching circle at gmail.com. I love to help entrepreneurs. I'm passionate about entrepreneurship, so I'm starting a mastermind right now. I take on new people to help them push their businesses with accountability and masterminding. You can get in touch, the real estate coaching circle at gmail.com. Thank you, Glenn, for the interview.
Perfect. That's the easiest spot to find everything The Mindful Investor. I will put that in the show notes as well. Ari, like always, like every single week when we chit chat, always a pleasure. Thank you for coming on the show.
Well, thanks for having me, Glenn. Great show.
That was a nice video. Bye.